So look at this, there's a bump right.
This is Protect the Den, produced in Orem, Utah, and found on YouTube, Twitter, and all podcast locations.
White, oh my swords,
Here are your hosts, Jared Ivins and Bryce Larson.
We welcome you in to Protect the Den. I'm Bryce Larson alongside my great friend,
Jared Ivins.
We are grateful for you tuning in today on this beautiful, white, wintry Monday morning.
Well, it's Monday, actually, so we don't actually do these much on Mondays. It's been Wednesdays.
Usually Wednesdays only.
It's actually always been Wednesdays.
Yeah, Wednesdays only.
And now it's Monday morning. It is 20
cold.
degrees. I think every school district in Utah got canceled except for Granite School District.
And then also Utah Valley University still has classes this morning.
As does other schools in the area. BYU does.
Yep.
You know, it's interesting. My mom is a substitute teacher today at Cottonwood High School. She's just chilling with her 5 students in the class today. The 5 that made it. So shout out to those 5. You guys are the real champions.
Academic All-States right there.
Cool. Yeah, the snowstorm hasn't quite hit Provo or the Spanish Fork. It hasn't hit south yet. It's
Southern Utah County.
It's still more north. They got 15 inches up in Murray Holiday area, but here we got a dusting and it's cold.
But anyhow, we are grateful to be here, and let's give you the show rundown today on Protect the Den. All right, we're going to start off with your UVU sports headlines. Also, we're not going to do Wolverine of the Week today. We're going to save that for Wednesday.
We did it 5 days ago, 4 days ago.
It feels right to do it on a Wednesday.
No point to rush it.
It's Wolverine Wednesday. Wolverine of the Week.
Wednesday. WWW.
All of the above.
Wolverine of the Week Wednesday.
We're also going to talk about how the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about if UVU's ever going to have a football team. I don't know.
They won't.
Men's basketball is halfway through WAC play. Where do we stand? Give our thoughts about that as well. And then with 10 days off, will the rest hurt or help the men's basketball team?
Yeah. We'll finish it by talking more on rivals. We brought that up a little bit. Had some reminders of Dixie State joining. We're going to talk if Dixie State's going to be the new rival. Thank you, Kyle, for fixing us on that one. And then we're going to finish it with our brand new segment of Know the Foe. And this week, Seattle, as we play Seattle on Saturday, Seattle U edition.
Give you little facts about Seattle University.
All right, well, let's jump right into our headlines today. Men's basketball lost to Cal Baptist last Wednesday in Orem in a dagger 65-61.
It's close.
Isaiah White led the Wolverines in scoring. He had 15. UVU shot 43% from the field, but again, as we've seen throughout the year, they struggled
from three-point line.
18% on the game. So, not very good there. UVU will host Seattle Saturday the 8th at 2 p.m. in the UCCU Center, and that will be televised on the WAC digital network.
Or you could just show up to the game.
That would be preferred, as we need that desperately.
Exactly. Softball kicks off their season in Mexico this week, Thursday. They are going to compete in the Puerto Vallarta Challenge, and they play some pretty good teams down there.
You know, Bryce, just right now it's 70 degrees in Puerto Vallarta. Today it's going to be
Orem.
78 for a high. Right now, here in Orem, just
it's 29 degrees. I'm calling it.
23. Not even close.
It's close.
No, you're not even close at all. Those guys, man, shout out to the softball team. Please go win.
Yeah.
Continue
on Thursday, they're going to take on George Washington and then also Oregon.
Great team.
Yeah.
Highly ranked right now.
Yeah. And then one on Friday versus Nevada in their last game in Mexico will be against Long Beach State. All of those games will be televised on flowsoftball.com. So I think it's like a $12 membership. You could just sign up. You get 4 of those games. That's not bad.
Yeah, $3 a game.
Yeah, watch the softball team as they take on those teams in Mexico.
Wrestling, they fell short versus Air Force at home last Friday. They lost 22-14. Kimball Bastian and Tanner Orndorff each earned bonus point victories. Taylor Lamont and Tate Orndorff each won by decision. So congratulations to Taylor and Tate and Kimball. A tough loss for the wrestling team overall, but Air Force is a really highly ranked wrestling team.
Yeah.
And they're also an affiliate with the Big 12. It's just a great meet and match that they had, but they fell short. And
it's great to see the Orndorff brothers, Tanner and Tate, putting on work for UVU.
Definitely.
Putting in the work.
And like we said, no Wolverine of the week this week, so we're going to jump right into our topic one. Talk a little bit about the Super Bowl yesterday.
Yeah, it was a good game. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. The first half could have been better. Ended up 10-10, but...
The fourth ever tie in Super Bowl at a halftime.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Pretty interesting.
That's a good stat,
Yeah.
Halftime show could have been better. I wasn't much a fan. I'm never a fan of the halftime show.
I was terrified.
I think it's too long. Makes the game
mortified.
too long. I don't care really what goes on. I'm not, whatever people like. I don't care. But I just think it's too long. It makes the game 5 hours long, and I don't care to watch people dance and sing on stage.
That's one point of it. They also have about 50 commercial breaks compared to the usual 25.
It's true.
And the commercial breaks are twice as long.
Yeah.
They're making $5.6 million off of 30 seconds. If I were them, I'd have double the commercials they have now.
Well,
the Kansas City Chiefs, they won the Super Bowl 30-21, which both Bryce and I were happy about.
Yeah, I was rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm happy for Andy Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid, Daniel Sorensen, all those local dudes that were playing.
Yeah, very happy for him. But this led us to think, will UVU ever have a football team? We've seen the football teams in the state of Utah, BYU, Utah State, Dixie State, and
Weber State, SUU. Like literally every school except for UVU and Slick. Utah State Eastern. Could you think of another institution? Westminster.
You know what? You got me. There's a UVU Eastern as well. They meet up in the mountains near Oakley, Utah.
Yeah, well, they also have the Wasatch campus, but...
Gosh, man.
None of the above.
With all of those teams having football teams, will UVU ever get one? Bryce, let's start with you.
As it stands right now, not in the foreseeable future. I honestly don't think UVU is going to put together a football team. It just costs too much money. It costs too much money for them to start a football team. And then there's no market in the Utah Valley for a football team. Every Saturday, there's already 60,000 people that go and watch football on Saturdays in the Utah Valley. And then even when that team is away, we all know what team I'm talking about, all of those people are going to sit at home and watch that football game.
Yeah.
Plus, with the LDS culture, Saturday's the biggest day to get things done. And so to watch two football games in one is really asking a lot of the people in the county. Obviously, if we're in the South, yeah, of course it's going to happen. That's why every school in the South has a football
Literally
team.
Every school.
So they got Sundays they can go and do whatever they want to do on, right? They don't.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't think that UVU is in the position to have a football team, although I would love for them to have a football team.
For me, far down the road, yes, they will have a football team. And let me tell you why. UVU is the largest school in Utah. They have the highest enrollment. So we have the numbers. And frankly, of those numbers of the students, there are athletes here that go to UVU.
Yeah.
Now, it is a stretch, of course. Who would they play? Would they play in a conference, or would they be independent like New Mexico State? Or, that's obviously a higher up because they'd have to first get to Division I, which they'd have to start Division III or Division II, FCS, all of that. And it would take a very long time to be profitable.
Yeah, it would.
But I think they will have one eventually. It would add to the Dixie State rivalry, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit. But I think they will have one far down the road.
That would be awesome, really, if Utah Valley could get a football team. Also, I know there's a lot of people in the Valley that were excited, actually, when they heard that UVU was moving to the WAC, because at that time the WAC was a football conference.
Yeah, they were.
Everybody jumped ship from the WAC with all their, Utah State, all those teams. They all left to go to the Mountain West. Everybody thought they were going to stay a football conference, so the UVU was going to get a football team. But that's not what ended up happening. They moved, and WAC went non-football, brought in all of the teams that the Big West had at one point. And so that's how that.
So let's talk about this for a second, Bryce. Would you rather have a football team at UVU, or instead of putting the money into a football team, have all of that money go into building the basketball program or the soccer or the existing programs?
Yeah, I think they need to go all in on athletics at Utah Valley University. Now, in saying that, what I think is happening, they're doing a good job at being a well-rounded university at this moment. They have 40,000 students.
They're accepting to all, and they have programs and abilities for all, which is incredible.
Exactly. But one thing that is nice for the future, they just barely got a nice donation, and you can see they're actually upgrading a lot of the athletics facilities and things. They're building a new building on campus for athletics. They're also redoing the turf. They're putting turf in on the baseball field. And so slowly they're putting more money into athletics.
Yeah.
What they need to do is we've talked about this before. They need to find a way to increase attendance and increase ways and make the games more fun. Bring them out.
If they increase attendance, that'll increase in profitability and money. You sell tickets, you sell concessions, you sell clothes, all of the above. So that's obviously the first thing. I think they should go all in on basketball and soccer and baseball, these existing sports. We even see the club sports. They have hockey that's trying to become a bigger presence. And if they spend the money trying to get a football team, it's going to hinder the growth of these other established sports they have.
Yeah. Teams that have already started coming as well.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go into men's basketball then. Let's talk men's hoops. We're halfway through the WAC play. We've played exactly 8 games, and we have exactly 8 games left before we go into WAC tournament play in Vegas. So, biggest surprises, biggest letdowns, biggest hopes. Bryce, what do you got for us?
One of my biggest surprises and also one of my biggest letdowns, they're kind of the same for me, is the way that the offense has played this season. We have all of these athletes.
Isaiah White, TJ Washington,
Brandon Averett, all of these great basketball players.
Ojapokee. The list goes on. We're not singling anyone out.
Yeah, and the thing that really surprises me is the lack of offensive production, the lack of the 3-ball. The lack of shooting that we see from this team. They really have let me down in that way, and it also has surprised me. I honestly thought this team was going to come out and they're going to have a high-powered offense. They're going to be able to take it to the rack, be able to score at will, and they're going to have some big games. The defense is what I thought wasn't going to be good, and it's been the exact opposite for me.
Yeah. 3-5 in WAC play through the first 8 games, with wins over Chicago State, which we dominated them, UT-RGV, which was a buzzer-beating win, great intense game, and a win on the road at GCU. Tough losses. They lost by 5 to Kansas City, lost by 1 to Cal State Bakersfield, and lost by 4 to Cal Baptist just recently. Now, these are tough losses. That's the biggest disappointment and letdown to me.
Yeah.
These are games, those 3 that they could have won, that UVU was in the situation to win. They just weren't able to. Now, not saying the season's over, we get to play them all again. We get this chance again. Now, the biggest surprise for me is winning on the road at Grand Canyon. We haven't won there since 2014.
Although Grand Canyon is on a down year, it was a great win. It's a hard atmosphere to go in.
Tough atmosphere, tough team. UVU hasn't played their best basketball on the road. We've seen them a little better at home, even though there's not a home presence as much. But home bacon, you always play better in what you're used to. And my other biggest surprise is that Ojapokee is tied for 6th in the NCAA Division I for block shots. I'm not surprised that he did it. I'm so happy and so excited for Ojapokee because he's incredibly at the top, leads the WAC, leads the West. It's truly, truly incredible.
Yeah. And my biggest hope for the rest of the season is that UVU will go down to New Mexico State, and I really hope that they'll beat them. They'll be the ones to knock off New Mexico State in the Pan Am.
Which is very tough.
It's a tough, hard task to do. But if they can do it, that really gives us hope for the WAC tournament, that they can beat them on a neutral floor as well. That gives them the confidence going into the tournament that they could maybe make a run.
And surprise some people.
Yeah.
All right. Topic 3, with 10 days of rest before their next game and in between games. So we played last Thursday in a tough loss, and now we play on Saturday against Seattle at home. With this 10 days of rest, Bryce, does this help or hurt UVU's team?
Well, is it 10 days? Because they did play on Wednesday last week.
Wednesday to Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. Because you said Thursday. So
sorry, my bad.
Double checking.
I apologize.
So with this rest that they have in between games, I believe it will help them. I think that any kind of rest, they could get their mind back right. They could get caught up on their schoolwork. And then also they can put in some practice and change up some of the game plan that they have. They have a lot of time to prepare for Seattle. Seattle was a game that they didn't play well up in Seattle.
We had high expectations. Obviously, they weren't met, but tough loss.
Yeah, and it's hard for them. It was hard for them to go to Seattle and change a little bit of a change of pace and change of a gym, such a small gym. All of that, all of those factors went into how badly they shot up at Seattle. Now, I think coming back, they're going to have a much better game, at least from the field. They'll shoot a lot higher percentage. I mean, what did they shoot? They shot 30%, I think, on the field against Seattle.
Yeah, overall.
So I think
entirely.
This break, this, rest that they'll have, I think it'll help them a lot. They'll come out, they'll shoot a lot better, and hopefully they can have a lot closer game on Saturday.
The 10-day break will help UVU. They're shooting on the season 29% from 3. Now, like we said, this is shocking. With Brandon Averett, TJ Washington, the list goes on. With these athletes, I thought that we would be shooting the ball better from 3. 29% is pathetic. It's trash, and it's not going to help them win games, especially if they want to go into the WAC tournament and surprise some people. So this break, this 10 days, will help them relax, get shots up, and get their confidence back. It's not going to change their shooting. That's what you do in the offseason from May to September. That's when you're getting better at shooting. Yeah. But it allows them, I think, to clear their mind a little bit, breathe, relax, and just hit like a restart button that they'll be able to hit, come in Saturday, start the entire second half of the season on a right foot, and get back into the flow of things. I could see how it could hurt them. Being 10 days off, you lose your momentum with your team. You're sinking.
Come out a little rusty.
Yeah, but I don't think that'll happen. I think Mark Madsen will get these guys ready for WAC play coming in once again on Saturday.
Yeah, I also believe that as well. All right, a little bit of change of pace now. We're going to go head in. We're going to talk about what we talked about last week, a little bit about UVU's biggest rivalry.
Yeah.
We talked about last week how maybe it could be BYU, how we want it to be BYU, whatever.
And shout out to Kyle.
And, shout out to Kyle, one of the
topic
viewers.
Right back. Well, we've thought is with Dixie State joining the WAC, will they be our biggest rival?
Yeah.
And for me, yes. This is a school that UVU can compete with. It's a great number
point.
one.
Yeah, great point made.
It's tough to go to Provo and play against BYU, where UVU's playing at Utah next year. Once again, those are tough teams, and it's almost like a huge step up. And that's not a bad thing, playing great competition, but it's hard to build your confidence knowing that you're playing against better competition. Dixie State is a team that they can compete with in basketball, soccer, baseball, and be able to have a rivalry with that's fun.
Well, yeah, it's a team that they've already had a rivalry with in the past. When both schools were junior colleges, they would go and play each other. This was like late 90s, early 1000s. They would go back and forth and play each other. So they already have that somewhat rivalry established among the alumni of the school. So that's going to bring them out for the games. Also, both of the athletic directors have announced that there will be a traveling trophy between the two schools.
Much needed.
Which is absolutely brilliant.
Build value for the game.
There needs to be a traveling trophy for rivalry games, especially in-state rivalry games.
It makes it even better. There's going to be pride for who's the best in the WAC in the state of Utah.
Yep, and there will always be that spot in the trophy case for that trophy, and hopefully, it stays up here in the Utah County.
Yeah, and if you think about it, with the proximity that Dixie State and UVU have, just under 4 hours away, we will be able to go down to the games ourselves. We will be able to have fans go down and travel. Who doesn't want to go to St. George in February? You know, you're going out of 60-degree weather and get out of the 20-degree weather. And for me personally, I have friends that go to Dixie State. I love, and I'm a very competitive person, you know that, but I want to go beat their trash.
Exactly.
I want to go into St. George and show them that we are here to play, and that's where that competitive and that rivalry vibe will come from, is that I think students at UVU know students at Dixie State. They want to go beat them on the road.
Right.
Here at home as well.
That's very true. And speaking of friends, we actually have Dixie State Sports Insider, Paul Kyles, joining the show with us today. And we have a little bit of a voice recording that we're going to...
A phone call that we did with him.
Yeah, a pre-recorded phone call that we did with him earlier. So let's go and jump into that.
Kyles, Dixie State Sports Insider. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and you yourself?
I'm doing great. We're very excited to have you on Protect the Den. It's kind of a new segment to have a phone in. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I've watched a few of you guys' shows, and I've been pretty impressed with the improvements and things you guys have made. It's been cool.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Paul.
Improvements for sure. We've gotten better at each one. Some of them are just straight trash, but thanks for watching, man. We appreciate it.
Well, Paul, what do you think about Dixie State's move to the WAC this upcoming year?
I think we're excited. I'm very excited as a fan to be able to see them, make that move and make that jump. In Division II right now, where they're at with the RMAC conference, the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. Dixie State, specifically their basketball teams are, they've been consistently good throughout the years, and particularly their men's basketball team. And there's a few players that I'm very excited to see, and I think their game will translate well to Division I, and so I think it'll be good. And of course, going from Division II to Division I will take its few years to rebuild and things, and to build up to that level, and with recruiting and all that goes into that. But I'm excited to see where Dixie goes with that, and how well they do in the WAC this next season.
And, Paul, with that jump, obviously a different level of competition and new opponents, especially UVU, how do you see that playing out with kind of a rivalry with UVU?
I think it'd be really cool. I think it's really fun to have those interstate rivalries and things, and really, in my mind, the only people that they really have to go up against is SUU, Weber, and UVU. And I think all three of those are going to be super good. But I think going up into the Valley is going to be a good one. I know a lot of people down here are from the Valley, and I think there will be a pretty good rivalry, particularly between the fans. But I think there will be a pretty big rivalry there.
Yeah, and how about you tell us a little bit about what the atmosphere is like at those Dixie State basketball games?
I could say this. The men's basketball team, the men's basketball games are very exciting. They're very fun. I'm a sweeper. I do the athletic event staff, and I sweep in front of the hoops and stuff. And I sit right in front of the fan section, the student section, and they get very, very rowdy, and it's very fun. They have a lot of fun with it. I think they really enjoy and really love coming to basketball games and stuff. And the facilities are fantastic. I think both the men's football team and obviously the football team. They have a wonderful stadium, and they're planning on making renovations as well to improve that. But to the arena, the arena is fantastic. It's been used for plenty of different things, but I think it brings a really good, the way it's built and the fans and things. I think it's very fun to go to basketball games here, and people get excited, and I think it's fun.
Yeah, and that's something we've been working on here, is trying to build attendance for these athletic events, because right now it's trash.
Right. Right.
And you even mentioned football being a part of that, and we talked about this earlier on the show, that we, with the Superbowl this weekend and college football and professional football now coming to a close for this year, we were thinking
Right.
if UVU will ever get a football team, and I don't know if that's something you've ever thought about, but in your opinion, do you think UVU will ever have a football team down the road?
I think it would be awesome. In fact, I remember over the years I would ask myself that question, why they don't, because I mean, and I've seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of you guys' shows previously, and I mean, like you guys said, the university, Utah Valley University, is one of the most attended schools in Utah, yet it doesn't have a football team. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I would love to see that, and I think that the UVU and BYU would go head to head, and I think that would be a super fun game to watch. But I think all interstate rivalries are very fun, and I think it brings a lot of entertainment to and energy to each university and to all the fans within the state. And I think it'd be really cool to watch Dixie State and UVU go at it football-wise, man. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, we agree with you. We hope that one day UVU will get a football team here in the Valley. Hey, Paul, we're grateful for you for joining us on the show today. We're grateful, for your takes and all of that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, well, you have a good day, all right?
Enjoy the snow.
Yeah, you as well.
We'll see ya.
All right, see ya. Bye.
And we're very grateful for Paul joining in on us.
What a great interview. Every single
he's
time.
He's the nicest person I know.
Every single time he just...
Well, he knows how to put it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. And he's so knowledgeable about what he is talking about as well,
100%.
as far as Dixie State athletics go. And
sports
like
in
that.
general.
Yeah.
When we met him a couple years ago, being able to just talk sports with him before we were even caught up in UVU or Dixie State, it's always been fun. So we're grateful for Paul Kyles joining us once again, the Dixie State Sports Insider. Jumping now to recap our bold predictions from last week. I personally messed up thinking that we were playing Seattle last Saturday.
Yeah.
So my bold prediction of saying we're going 2-0 this week, my bad.
Yeah.
They didn't even win the first one.
So either way, you would have got it wrong.
Well, I missed that one.
Mine also, I said we would have, I talked about how UVU averages 14.5 turnovers a game. And I talked about how they were going to keep it under 10 in both games. So I also had a little mess up. I thought they were also playing Seattle.
That was our bad.
Messed up on the date on the schedule. Thought it was the weekend earlier.
Yep.
But yeah, I said they were going to have under 10 turnovers in each game. Against Cal Baptist, they had 11. So I was barely off on that one.
Yours was under 10 or 10 and under?
I believe it was under 10.
Yeah, so 9 was
They
the
will
cap.
stay under 10 turnovers a game. So I was 2 turnovers off.
Yeah. And we'll be making our bold predictions for this week on Wednesday's show. So we won't go in depth on that now, but we'll get those bold predictions out on Wednesday. But we have a new segment. We've thought about this a lot over the years, actually, of how we can do this with multiple schools, and we're actually going into expanding this topic of Know the Foe. And we're going to go more in depth as we go further in the season. We didn't plan it out too well for Seattle U edition, and that's on us. But this is something we really like the idea of, is knowing who we're playing and knowing a little bit about their history.
Yeah, let's talk about Seattle and kind of get to know what they are as an institution and as a school.
Yeah. You know, what stands out to me is that they only have 7,500 students.
Not a lot of students.
And they still beat us.
UVU has 40,000 students. So right there you could see maybe, and one thing that we talked about earlier is that UVU has so many students they have to accommodate, so a lot of their money is spread a lot thin, throughout.
Yep.
So Seattle, a thing that's nice about them is they can focus on certain things like sports and athletics. And they're also a religious institution, so they can focus on a little bit of that as well, having their students do that. One thing that I thought was interesting, an interesting fact about Seattle, is that usually they'll play at the Key Arena, which is in Seattle. And that seats 17,000 for basketball.
It's massive.
Yeah, they're able to seat
17,000
for their basketball games. But these past couple years, it's been under renovation.
Yep.
So they've moved their games to the Red Hawks Center that only seats 999 people. And maybe, we talked about earlier, maybe that's the reason why UVU shot so bad up in Seattle.
Change of scenery, change of environment.
It's hard to shoot in those smaller gyms that have different lighting.
Different lighting, different airspace.
Yeah.
It's all there.
As opposed to Grand Canyon and even the UCCU Center seats a little bit more, and also Pan Am. Those are three bigger arenas that are a little bit higher ceiling. It's less of a high school gym feel.
Yeah. What stood out for me is that they're only 3.3 miles from the University of Washington. We pointed this out in last week's show, talking about how we hope for a rivalry between BYU and UVU. They're only 3.5 miles. It's pretty much the same distance. But the level of caliber between athletics is, widely different. Yeah. Washington being a dominant Pac-12 team, and Seattle. Also, that's, number of students. Seattle is the largest independent university in the Northwest United States, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But it's kind of cool. They're that close. And, this is something we didn't have the time to go into, but it'd be interesting to see how the fan base can vary being so close to Washington. So we'll go into that a little bit more as we continue with Know the Foe and giving you that inside information about the other schools.
Yeah, and that's going to be a great game on Saturday. So hopefully everybody can make it out to that game. I know that we're going to try our best to be there.
Yeah, we'll be there for sure.
And
very exciting.
Yeah, we hope that UVU wins that game. Finally, we need to get them back, man. They beat us here in Orem last year. We need to go and
we lost on the road big time there, and I think the players know that, and they're sick of it.
Go into it with a chip on their shoulder.
100%.
Get the win against Seattle. Beat them.
All right, last time we'll finish off with our headlines. Once again, men's basketball lost to Cal Baptist last Wednesday in Orem in a dagger 65-61. They cut it to 2 points with just a minute to play and weren't able to seal the deal. Isaiah White led the Wolverines with 15 points, and they shot 43% from the field. But once again, as we've seen throughout the season, struggled from three at only 18% on the game.
Yeah.
So they'll host Seattle, like we said, 2 p.m. in the UCCU Center, televised on the WAC Digital Network. But that doesn't matter because we need you there in person.
Yeah, we gotta get revenge on Seattle.
We need you there.
All right, softball kicks off their season in Mexico on Thursday, where they will take on Oregon and also George Washington University. Then on Friday they'll face off against Nevada, and finally their last game is against Long Beach State, and that will be on Saturday.
In the 79-degree weather.
Yeah, each of those games will be broadcast on flowsoftball.com, so catch it.
Yeah, make sure to get that subscription if you can. Wrestling fell short versus Air Force at home last Friday. They lost 22-14. Kimball Bastian and Tanner Orndorff each earned bonus point victories, which was incredible. Taylor Lamont and also Tanner's brother Tate each won by decision. So shout out to those great athletes getting the dub for their individuals, but also for the team in a great effort versus a very good Air Force wrestling team.
Exactly. They need to get a win, though, that wrestling team.
They've not had a win in a while.
They will get it back on track. We have a good feeling about that. But we thank you for joining us here on Protect the Den today, wherever you listen to us, any podcast.
This cold Monday morning.
Yeah, any podcast station, any place, even YouTube, We're thankful. Make sure you rate us 5 stars, subscribe, and then leave us some feedback.
We'd love to hear what we can do better because we want to increase the show, be able to get viewership, and also find out how to increase liking and marketing for the UVU Athletics. So please let us know, and we'll be happy to take any feedback. But until Wednesday, when we'll be back, protect the den.